Welcome to Virtual Kicking's virtual coaching session. So we're doing this as an Instagram live, as well as we're going to put it up on the virtual kicking platform for you to utilize as well. Go ahead and drop in comments or questions that you have throughout, and I will address those as we move forward. So first thing we want to start with is a few field goals. So let's just go in and have a peek at one. And I really want to give a little bit of advice, and I really like what was sent to me. It was a running video about 4 or 5 kicks in a row. And as a coach, I'm able to see consistencies. I'm able to see inconsistencies. So all those things are super important. So really think when you're sending a coach, any coach, that running video is really good so that they can see the consistency of your technique, of your swing going through. And this way, I actually saw something and I saw consistently throughout. And really that should be the focal point of the training. Like what drills can be done to fix what we're gonna have a look at here. So let's just go ahead and have a look real quick. I'm gonna hit it in full speed. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. He does a little bit as well. We're gonna just go with 2. All right, and both of them are fading off to the right slightly. Let me zoom out a little bit. All right, now we kind of finishes towards the middle, okay? So the first thing I want to look at is the stance, all right? And I usually start from your toes up. First of all, I really like the lean that we're looking at here. I think the lean is very clean, all right? A nice lean forward. Notice the toes are pointed to where we want them to go, to the plant foot. So the angle, the line, all of that looks good. The inconsistency that I see that you're consistently doing is right here. All right, it looks like we're striking the toe a little too much on the ball. All right, so we're really targeting this sweet spot here. It looks like we're going off the toe of our foot. Now, let's start from the result and let's work our way back. So whether you're a coach or a player, maybe you want to be a coach eventually, let's start. Why is the ball striking the toe consistently? All right. Well, the first thing I see is there's not a straight lockout of the leg. So we really want that leg to be locked out. And then if we zoomed in, I also don't think that this ankle is locked out either, right? So we want that toe really flexed. I would probably roll this heel up a little bit, point that toe down more, so we're striking more on the bone of our foot, more of where our laces are. That's really where we want to strike. All right, and then let's bring it back a little bit. On the backswing, this is as high as the backswing gets, okay? So I'm gonna try to use a little angle here, all right, so we can kind of look at the angle of that leg. So if you notice the angle, it's almost 90 degrees, right? We want to get this back leg, the backswing, up as high as possible. The more we can get it up, the more torque we're going to have, the more speed we're going to have, the more room we're going to have to generate power. That's really important, right? Coming through the ball. And then, so I would say that the backswing needs to be higher, and then I really want to focus in on this ankle here, okay? So that toe is up. In reality, we would like this toe to be pointed out a little bit more so it's flexed, it's locked, right? When we say a locked leg or locked toe, specifically a locked ankle, when you hear that term, it's a pointed toe. We want it to be rock solid so when it strikes the ball, it doesn't give at all. So here, that toe is towards his ankle on the swing. Right? And I think it starts with this first step. So when we step, this toe is out a little bit. So this toe is pointed out. Here we go. Let me get this. So this toe is out here, right? Pointed off to the right. And then when he picks it up in his backswing, it stays in that position. I'd really like to see him keep that toe going towards where he wants it to end up. That way, when he brings it back, he's extending his toe in his backswing and coming through. That's extremely important to help you with contact of the ball. Now, I would say fix that step and then more than likely this ankle stays locked, and then at contact that toe is down a little bit more, right? And we're striking more with the sweet spot of our foot on the sweet spot of the ball, not necessarily our toe. I'm seeing multiple kicks where it's going off the toe, he's getting a little underneath it, and he's pushing it right majority of the time. And the reason he's pushing it right is that contact, he's not locked out. So if we zoom in a little bit more, and I'll try to make the two lines to trace it, this is the angle of his leg. We want a straight leg right there at contact with a straight toe, so we're locking out, coming up and through. That's going to be really important to stay consistent. When you have a bent leg, when you're making contact with the ball, you're actually going to strike in here, okay? Sorry, let me get that off there. You're going to strike in here. That means you're on the inside part of the ball, so the push is going to end up, that ball is going to push off to the right. If that leg is straight, we're more than likely going to be swinging straight through towards our target where we want it to go. That bent knee, we hit the inside of the ball, it fades off to the right. So that's the first one. So now I want to go into two other ones as well. So I'm going to pull up another kicker that I did a session with, and I'm going to go with two angles. I'm going to go from the back, and then I'm going to go from the side as well. So you can see the technique in two different angles, okay? So the first thing I want to do is I want to start on the right side, all right? We want to start with your toes up. We're going to start from our toes up, really looking at our stance. So right here, I think the stance looks pretty good. I like that that toe is pointed right to where we want to go. The key is really staying in that straight line to the ball. All right, so let's go ahead and have a look real quick on what he's doing. I'm going to run it back one more time. You should not just be waiting for me to say something. You should be analyzing this yourself. This will really help you out as well. Good. And then let's look on the left side. Let me zoom in a little bit. He's pretty consistent with his technique each time. Good. So the first thing I see that's similar with the last kick that we saw is this ankle lock, lack of lock in the ankle in the backswing. Sorry, that's the wrong one. I want to circle it. Right, I want to zoom in there. As you can see, the ankle is not locked. All right, the toe isn't pointed in the backswing. We absolutely need that to be locked out. And I think if we track it back to the step, just like the last kicker, right? He steps over here, okay? If he steps straight, let me get a different color, towards his target, his toe will stay pointed at the ball. Whenever you open up your toe with your kicking foot, more than likely your hips are gonna open and you're not gonna have clean contact because of the lockout of the ankle. Those are all really important things to do. So because the toe is pointed out, notice where this toe is pointed, off to the side, really would like it to be at the ball in that direction. That's where we really want it to be, okay? All right, good, let me get rid of that one. Now, let's bring it through a little bit. At contact, we also see an issue with the foot flexion. So because his ankle wasn't locked in his backswing, his ankle is not locked out at contact either. So really I would say he's making more power with his heel and not really his toe. And so I would really ask him at contact to keep that ankle back. The way it is right there is really the way we want to see it. It looks like he leads with his heel, right? Not with the top of his foot as much. And what happens is when you lead with your heel, you're working your groin and your hip flexor, right? When you keep that toe pointed out and down with your heel back right here, you're targeting more of the quad. And that quad will ultimately give you more height and more distance, right? And it'll also kind of cut down on the injuries because a lot of kickers that have hip flexor and groin injuries, is because they're swinging and they're leading with their heel at contact. So that's one thing we want to fix, is that foot flexion. It starts with the steps. And then the result of it is a flatter follow through, okay? So we can see right here, and this kicker does a great job of doing the same thing every time. He hits a very straight ball most often, right? It's a nice clean ball, but we're trying to say, what can we do now to tweak or change to have results down the road? Because ultimately, we want to keep progressing to the next level and the next level. So the idea that there's a straight leg here looks awesome. All right, you can see a little bit of that heel right there is down. All right, and we're also hitting the ground a little bit as well. So really seeing that part. But you can see how straight this ball stays, right? Nice straight, and he stays here as well. Each and every time that leg is straight, he's working to get that ankle locked, but a lot of the time he's tapping out, and from here, his follow through is coming off to the left. All right, so notice how when he finishes, let me get off there. When he finishes, he's coming around to the left, and we can see here as well, when he's finishing, he's coming around to his left, right? I would really like for him to really stay up and through a little longer on his follow through here. He kind of breaks off quickly and it's flat. Now the ball stays straight, it has decent height, but you're gonna max out on your ability to how far and how high you can hit it, because college coaches are looking to see how high that ball stays, how straight it stays as well. Those are two big things. And then the distance will come into play as well. Next, what we want to talk about is, I know you all have said before, is like, hey, what do we do with our eyes? What do we do with our head? What do we do with our off arm? Okay? I really want you to do whatever you feel is natural and that we can make consistent. But one thing that I will say is, when I'm looking at his head, right, the direction is it's coming down. So each time when he crunches, his head comes down, and that's what we're trying to get away from. Because if your head comes down, then those shoulders come down. And you see right here, really looking at his shoulders, now his shoulders are crunching as well. And when your shoulders are crunching, it's going to stop this follow through from coming up, right? The only thing it can do is come out or around. It can't swing up. And really, ultimately, we want our follow through to continue up. So if we can keep our head still with just our eyes fixed on that sweet spot, then at contact and through the follow through, we will generate a higher follow through. That means we'll generate more power from these hips. And with the flight of our follow through being higher, the result is, instead of our ball being here, it's going to be up here, right? So we're really going to change the trajectory of our field goal. And so really thinking that chest up, head up, eyes down, you really don't want to work, you don't want to see that crunch to the point where it affects your follow through. So here it's only waist height stopping, and you can see here as well on the left side, that crunch stops it and then it bails out. Now his follow through is straight, you know, which keeps that ball in a straight line, but we want to maximize our potential. We want to hit a higher ball there. That's really important. And then the last thing I want to add to it is our finish, our skip. And then I'll add a couple drills here in a second. So notice I'm going to look on the right side here, and then on the left side, let's see where he finishes. Right, if anything, he's coming off to the left, right? We're taking our momentum into the ground on that last step, and we're not transitioning it downfield. So in reality, I would like to see, if you're breaking down your own film, I would like to see a path here, a path here. Really working down the field a little bit more to transition your weight. Because even if you mishit it, if you have a good skip down the field consistently working towards your target, it's going to keep that ball straighter longer. So whenever your misses still are makes, you are becoming a very, very talented kicker. Good. So now what I want to do is I'm going to come out and I want to show you a few drills that we want to look at. So we did the platform virtualkicking.com. All I'm going to do is go to the video library. I'm going to click drills, and then within drills it has all the drills that you could do. Okay, all these different drills that are going to work for you. I'm just going to talk about one that I really like for you guys, and it's really it's called a frame 1-2, and I see a lot of guys really struggle with their backswing. So this is a drill that you can do to really mimic that fluid swing that you want to see, but you're going to do it on air first. So you're going to stand next to the line, just go back to 1, come to 2. Notice each and every time that ankle is locked, right? It's locked here, and that's the key. And really on your own, something you could do is you could take your steps back and over and get set. Just do 1 quick rep of this 1-2. All right, just 1, 2, and then go kick the ball. What we're trying to do is we're trying to replicate the foot flexion here, that then when we go and do it full swing with a ball, it's the same reaction. Be very careful. Make sure on your no step kicks and your 1-step kicks that you have that good foot flexion, because whatever you do on those no steps and 1-steps, more than likely they're going to carry to your full steps as well. All right, let's build on that. Now let's slide to a few punts. All right, so I'm going to pull up one from the side, and then I'm also going to pull one up from behind. And the angle that you're going to see here is really what you want to send me whenever we're breaking down film. Okay, these are the 2 different angles. The one on the left side, all right, I can obviously see your steps, the drop. I can see everything I need. I like this back one for highlight films, for running videos, because I can see your steps, I can see the ball, but I can also see the flight of the ball off your foot a little bit better. All right, obviously raising the camera up when it goes. So let's have a look here at punt. Feel free to keep dropping in your questions on Instagram, and I will answer them at the end. So now it looks like here we have a 1.5 step punter, and what that means is right-footed punters, right, usually start with the right foot back and they go right, left punt. So we would call them a 2-step punter. Some jab with their left and then do 2 steps. You really want to stay away from 3 steps, but a lot more guys are going with their kicking foot forward on their punts. And the reason that is it keeps the steps smaller and it's a quicker get off. So Thomas Morstead is really famous for doing that and does an incredible job in the NFL for the New Orleans Saints. So let's just have a look here first at his step. So let's see where he catches it. I love how he catches it each time out and away, right? I'd really like you to catch it out and away. I don't want you to let the ball get up inside into your body. Catching, mold it right away. We're going to look left side first. Pretty smooth, good extension, up and through. All right, let's look at this angle, see some similarities, some consistencies. Good. So now, first thing I want to talk through is our step. So if you are a right-footed punter, then more than likely you drift off to your right. And what that means is, even though we want you to punt on a straight line and walk on a straight line, you naturally are going to drift to the right because you're right-footed. And so here, we see him drift off to the right. If I'm looking at that blue line, he's drifting to the right. He starts on the blue line, and then he finishes to the right of the line. Right? That's perfectly fine in my eyes, because as long as you're walking in a straight line, even if it's diagonal from an actual physical line on the field, as long as the drop and shelf stay within that walking line that you're making, and your swing path is the same with you, and your target line is all in the same line, you're still going to be successful. You're still going to be successful. The issue is when you drift right, but then still try to kick it down the line. So him drifting right and then still trying to kick it down this blue line, that's when you start swinging around and you miss hit the ball a little too much. So let's bring it back. So the first thing I want to look at is the first step. All right, the first step, I always like to say, I want that first step to be flat or on the ball of your foot, especially for him. If his kicking foot's forward, he really should be having a little bit more lean on his line. So he really should be leaning here. He's a little bit too tall, and I would also add a little bit more flexion in that knee, so we're on the ball of our foot, more of an attacking position. So if you just, YouTube Thomas Morstead, you can see his technique. He's really bent over more, and it's been really successful for him, obviously. But notice his first step, right? We're landing on our heel. Let's see if he does it on the second one. Yeah, it looks like he's stepping on his heel each time. So if we're looking here, he's hitting his heel first. So when you're a 1.5 step punter, the reason you're doing that is to take smaller steps, stay compact. You really want to make sure that you're on the ball of your foot. Your shoulders stay over your toes. Shoulders over your toes is something that you could kind of repeat in your mind when you're doing your walking steps or your air swings. All right, so that first step looks to be a little too long. Keep coming. All right, now, second thing I want to zoom out slightly is notice the distance that he's traveling on the second step. He's all the way off the ground. On both of these, it looks like he's jumping off the ground. What's that's doing is that's taking a ton of power from your hips and driving it into the ground. A lot of his power is going into the ground right now, when really we want to contain it so that it comes up and through the ball on our swing. It's going to be tough for us to take power up and through the ball when we're jumping, and we have to control our landing first and then transition our swing up and through. That's where he's going to get in a little bit of trouble. So you really want to make sure that second step is small as well. All right, but let's see how we finish. How's that drop look to you guys? What does that drop look like? Let's see what it does out of his hand. Looks to be turning quite a bit. And that contact, to me, it's really turning a lot. So you really got to make sure you don't let that toe turn not the toe turn, let the ball turn in too much, because that's what's really going to get you in trouble. You might spiral and turn some over, but it's really going to be an awkward turnover that you're going to lose a lot of distance. Really keep that ball at 11 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, it's pretty flat. It's not really spinning out of his hand, which looks good to me as well. Let's zoom in on the left side. So obviously, when I was talking to him, also that pinky was a little awkward, right underneath the ball. And I think that's what's causing the inconsistency of that ball turning in, right? But overall, I think the drop is turning in slightly. And not only that, because we're drifting right, the ball is ending up in the middle of our body, so we're swinging left. All right, swinging left. And then let's look at follow through. So really great extension on both of these as far as a straight leg, a pointed toe at contact. Really good. The thing that you got to understand about punting is you want to be fluid and take your momentum up and through the ball. A lot of the times you can see right here, I'm looking at the left side right here with his shoulders. Watch how his shoulders, he's back and then he hitches his shoulders forward, and now that forces his hips right here to stay still, right? He's not coming up and through. Now he takes his hips away. We are only swinging with our leg now. Whereas if we stay nice and tall and long, let our leg come up and through, then the reaction to that is our hips will rotate up and through as well. That's going to give us a more hang time on our punt as well as more distance in the long run. Right? Him staying in place would be fine, but he's crunching, which is taking his hips out of the equation. It's almost like when he swings with his leg, his hips stay back, right? We don't want your hips to stay back. We want your hips to come up and through when you swing as well. And I think when we look on the right side, he drifts quite a bit as well. And that's probably more of an inside drop, swinging up and around. So I think that all starts with your steps, taking smaller steps, being on the balls of our feet a little longer. That's really going to be crucial. Shoulders over our toes as long as possible. That's going to give you a little bit more success. And then visually, I just want to zoom in here for a second visually. All right, if you are drifting, right, I'm looking at the right side. If you're a punter, you're drifting right, then visually pick out something over here on the right side, slightly to the right, that you can drive at. That's really going to help you out in the long run. All right, so if he's here, then I would say, hey, you know, look at something. Let me see, let me get this off here. Look at something over here, right, that's slightly off to the right that you can drive to, right? That's going to help you kind of stay in a line. I think what happens, he drifts right, then drops the ball, then visually he sees this ball or the line here. Now he swings around, and that's what gets him in trouble. That's why he kind of over-exaggerates that follow-through. We don't see that sort of swinging around follow-through here. It stays up and straight pretty much, but here we really swing off to the left. If you want to be a directional punter, and more schools are asking for film on directional punting, rolling videos left and right, you cannot have a follow-through that consistently falls off that much. You got to stay under control, going up and towards your target. So picking a target line or a target object to kind of directionally work your steps to, that's going to help you out a lot in the end. So a drill I want to go to in our platform that I'm going to pull up is our measure step punts. Now, I believe we talked about this before, but this is a video that pretty much just talks through how you want to create smaller steps. So right here is your starting point. Your first cone is where you want your first step to be, and then the last cone, about 3 yards, is where your last step is going to be. So measure step punts, you're measuring out your distance, and you're trying to take your steps every time to train for those smaller steps. All right, so really start to utilize that if you find yourself taking bigger steps, because a lot of young punters believe the bigger steps you have, the bigger the punt's going to be, and that's completely false. Stay compact, keep the shoulders forward with a great drop and a nice lock swing path of your foot and your leg, and you'll have a lot of success.